Hi guys, sorry it's been a couple weeks. We had a lot of company and everything after he was born, and things are finally like settled down and Rory's back at work, so now I have time to do this. So Rowan was born August 7th. I was 40 weeks and 2 days pregnant. Um, my labor story is going to be like kind of all over the place. I tried to keep track of times and everything, but I don't know. I ended up having an emergency C-section, so it just got too hectic, and honestly, I had no idea even what time it was and what was going on. So like I said, this is just going to be all over the place because I don't really remember the order that things really happened. And, I was too kind of caught up in everything to write it all down. So I'm just going to do my best to try to remember. So I apologize that it's, not going to be the best story, I guess. But my labor started August 6th. I woke up at 4 in the morning having contractions 3 to 5 minutes apart. And after having them that close together it was about 3 hours probably, my mom and Rory made me go to the hospital. I was against it. I didn't feel ready to go. Like, contractions hurt, but I don't know. I didn't feel like I needed to be at the hospital. And I wanted to labor at home as long as possible. But I got outvoted. So when I got to the hospital, they checked me. I was 4 centimeters dilated, and they just told me like I could stay and labor there if I wanted to, or I could go ahead and come home and go back when I felt ready. So I decided to come home, and they just told me to go back when contractions were like 2 to 3 minutes apart, or when they were like just getting, like too painful to where I felt like I needed to be at the hospital. So we got home around 10 in the morning on August 6th, and when I got home, I ate breakfast, I took a shower, and I took a nap. And when I woke up, I went to the gym and walked on the treadmill for a couple hours. And after walking, my contractions were still 3 to 5 minutes apart, but they were getting a lot more painful. So that night we went to dinner. We went out to Chinese food because that put my grandma into labor. So we thought, maybe that would kind of pick things up for myself. And when we got home, I sat on the birthing ball for a couple hours, and I managed to get a few hours of sleep, like in between contractions. So yeah, I was in bed for like 3 hours, but I just slept, in the minutes between the contractions. So at midnight on August 7th is when I ended up getting out of bed because contractions were too painful to sleep in between, and I wanted to like get up and see if walking around would get them closer together, because even though they were getting more painful, they were still 3 to 5 minutes apart. So I just walked around the living room, around our coffee table, sat on my birthing ball. I ate a bunch of cherries, drank a lot of water. So I was having contractions like 2 to 3 minutes apart for over an hour, and decided to go to the hospital at 3:30 in the morning. And that's the last thing I have written down, so now I'm going to have to try to remember. And like I said, I don't really remember the order of things, but anyway, so we got to the hospital probably around 4 in the morning. They checked me. I was 6 centimeters dilated and 100% effaced. They had me, they gave me a hep block, but I didn't want to start an IV because I wanted to like be up and walking around and everything, and I just wanted to stay hydrated with water. rather than the IV fluid, which I highly recommend, by the way, because I know that it's really common to get dehydrated during labor, but I didn't at all. So that was really good. So they were coming in to put me on monitors. I think it was like once an hour or something like that. And then other than that, I was up walking around and on the birthing ball. And they were coming to check for dilation. I think it was every 2 hours. So they came in to check me 2 hours after I was admitted, and I was dilated to an 8. So, that looked really good. They want you to progress about a centimeter an hour, so I was like right on track, and it looked like, it was going to be a speedy process, and things were, happening. So they came in 2 hours later to check me, and of course I was hoping I would be a 10, but I was still an 8. So they were planning on coming 2 hours again. So sometime within that 2 hours, like before they checked me again, the nurse and someone else like came rushing into the room, and it was kind of scary because I didn't know anything was going on, but of course they were watching like the monitors out on the nurse's station. But they came like running in frantically and like just kind of seemed like panicky. And I remember one of them was like, "Oh, is it a false alarm?" And the other one was like, "I don't know, like I think so, but anyway." And they were checking his monitors, and they like were rearranging them and stuff, and they're like, "Well, let's see if that changes it." So that was like kind of weird, I guess, because they didn't say what was going on. I had no idea what was happening. But then after that, like everything seemed fine. They left, and I just went about my labor. And then I don't think it was too long after that I had the urge to push. And I was actually pushing, like, it was like completely involuntary. Like my body was just bearing down. And I was like, "Mom, I think I'm pushing, but I don't know because I'm not trying to." But anyway, so she like ran out to the nurse's station, told them I was pushing, and they thought, that this was a go. Like they brought in the sterile cart and everything to deliver him. But when the midwife checked me, I was still an 8. And she was like, "You can't push yet. You have to stop yourself from pushing." Basically, she told me that if I kept pushing, my cervix was going to rip and it would be all bad. So, I don't remember how long exactly that I was keeping myself from pushing. I know for sure it was over an hour. Maybe close to 2 hours, and that was by far the worst part of my labor. Like contractions were painful, but they were manageable, like because you get a break in between, so it's not like you are in pain the whole time. But when you're like going against what your body like naturally is just wanting to do, like my body was just pushing. It was, like I said, completely involuntary. And to try to stop my body from doing that was like the worst part of the entire experience. And it got to a point where I wasn't getting a break in between contractions, and I couldn't keep myself from pushing. Some contractions I would be able to like breathe through without pushing, but some contractions I was like, I need to push, I'm pushing. And there was really nothing that I could do, to stop it. And his monitors were reading that his heart rate was in the 60s. So that, scared the nurses, and they were hoping that the monitors were picking up my heart rate instead of his for some reason. Because, his was supposed to be like 100-ish. I think his was normally like 120 or something like that. So for it to be 60 was, really low. So they rushed in and put an internal monitor on him to get a more accurate reading, because, like I said, they were hoping that the 60 that it was picking up was my heart rate and not his. But I guess that after putting the internal monitor on, I guess it, that really was his heart rate. So at that point, they were talking about doing a C-section. But first, they gave me some kind of medicine to stop my contractions, because they were hoping that it would give him like a break and a chance to recover. But I guess that it didn't work. I kept asking, like, if I could push and if I was dilating, and because I did not want a C-section. Like, that's obviously like the opposite of what my birth plan was. But she was saying, in order for me to dilate, because my cervix was swollen from me pushing like prematurely, so she said, like, in order for my cervix to even dilate more, the swelling would have to go down. So it was kind of like, she said pretty much like I wasn't going to be dilating anymore. So, because since I was swollen, it was actually like my cervix was smaller. Anyway, so yeah, I don't really remember the order of things. I know that they decided I was going to need the C-section. They came in to give me the epidural. They gave me the catheter. And yeah, they wheeled me away to get my C-section. So, yeah, I don't know. Then I really was like completely out of it in the C-section. It was like, it's terrible. Like I know it's not, you don't choose to get a C-section, but like it sucked. Like, it's just completely not what you picture like your experience to be. Like, I didn't even know what time it was. Like, I had no idea. And so I didn't know, like, I didn't even know what time he was born. I didn't know how much he weighed. Like, they came to bring him over to show him to me, and I got to see him for like maybe 10 seconds. And then they like took him away and sent him upstairs with Rory, and then had to finish my procedure, which took like almost an hour. So I didn't even get to see him till after like an hour. Yeah, it really sucked. And I was like really sorry, I get like emotional. Yeah, it just really sucked. I mean, sorry. I mean, I'm so glad that, I'm thankful for a C-section because it got him out safe. But it's just a bad feeling, like, that, my body couldn't do what it's supposed to do. Like, I'm a woman. I'm supposed to be, like, have children, and, I mean, obviously, I had him, but it's just not fair that my body wasn't doing what it was supposed to do. So I feel like, I don't know, I kind of feel like I failed. Sorry. And I'm scared, like, for the next one, I want a VBAC, but like I know that once you have a C-section, you're more likely to need one again. So I'm just really scared that I'll never get to experience that, like having a natural birth and everything. But I mean, it all worked out. I'm really, really glad that, like, I feel guilty for getting emotional about it because, like, he's such a joy and I'm so happy, but I don't know. It just, having the C-section was really, really hard for me. And obviously I can't even, like, think about it or talk about it without just getting emotional. But, so yeah, he was born 2:13 p.m., 7 pounds, 10 ounces, and 21 inches long. And like I said, at least he's safe and healthy. And I hope for everyone, everywhere, like, that you won't need a C-section because it sucked. It's like you almost feel like you miss the birth of, like, your child because you're just, you're not part of it. You're, like, on the other side of this screen, like, don't get to see anything, like in my case, I didn't even know what time it was or anything. So it just sucked. Like, it's just not how you picture it to go, I guess. But yeah, that is our labor story. So I apologize again that, it wasn't really organized and, whatever. But thanks for watching.